Rock and roll. So I last night I had a chance to just kind of look at stuff. Well, first of all, if you haven't watched, if you've never seen Tony Robbins or watched, like, it's very powerful. I know a lot of the top managers, top reps, that was going around all yesterday on my Facebook, both of them, messages, everything, because it came out yesterday that I'm not your guru. And it's actually a documentary of like an event that he does, which is like his big event. So he has a thing called Mastery University, and it goes through different programs. There's Life Mastery, there's Wealth Mastery, there's Business Mastery, there's leadership. His entry-level program is Unleash the Power Within, UPW, which we had the guy Steven that came and spoke, remember, at the division meeting, kicking off SC1. He spoke right after. And that, I'm taking a group of people in November, second weekend in November, to San Jose, California for that event. We're going to go attend it. So I've been to that. Yeah, so we'll go that weekend. So whoever wants to go, that's his cheap one. So that one's it's usually $1,000, and we can get a group rate that's like $500. Date with Destiny is $5,000. Like that's what I paid to go to that.
Is that each, or
excuse me?
Would that be 500 each? Or
correct.
Okay.
Yes. So and Date with Destiny is 5,000 each. So they actually, the documentary that they put up was him was documenting what the heck he does at this Date with Destiny, which is 6 days, and it's like 12 to 16-hour days of like conference, but it like flies, and it's crazy intense. And they just kind of highlighted like one main thing for me today, and kind of walked through like what happens, and it was really cool because it was actually the one that I was at, and so he's ran like 70 something of these in the last 25 years, and it happened to be the one that I attended. So it was really cool to just kind of be able to relive that and think about a lot of things that happened there. Talked to a couple friends of mine, and we were just kind of reminiscing last night. But it was like, man, so much that changed, just through that, through that event. So anyway, I'm excited to share with you guys. And one of the things that is so powerful, and I wanted to go through this morning with you guys, is really connecting with people. And this is not something for Cutco, although you utilize it with anything. It's something that is for, relationships. I'm going to talk about, with business, with anything. It's just really about establishing great connection with people and really tying them into who you are. And when you watch Justin Ledford, when you watch Andy Janti, when you watch Mueller, when you watch Lanzetta and these guys who are at $2 million, $3 million in career sales, or any top guy, and like a lot of the top people that I've worked with, one of the things that they're phenomenal with is connecting with customers and really tying them into who they are, what they're doing. And these people are just like, oh my gosh, there's a book that I was given some years back by Matthew Kelly. It's called 7 Levels of Intimacy. And this is something I had all our branches read this past year. And at first they were like, what? And I was like, it can be, you can use it if you want just for romantic relationships, but this is about life, and understanding kind of the hierarchy and just mastering relationships. And so there's 7 different levels, all right? And you can take notes on this, I probably would, but whether you, like our lives, like whether you're like a little child or you're, the president of the United States, like we rely on relationships and our networks for basic survival, right? And just like how we feel, how we connect, how we feel significance. Like human beings were made to be relational creatures. Whether someone's a super introvert, many times they just, something happened early on and they just didn't enjoy the experience they had being around a lot of people. But I think about for those of us who are pursuing, like we want to be entrepreneurs, we want to be, some people want to do like real estate or investing or all these different things. It's like, if you own your own practice of any kind, relationships are your biggest asset, and just how you connect with your customers. They recommend you to people, they tell people about you, and just where you get into. And you hear, people like top successful people say like, oh, your network, equals your net worth, just because like who takes you so far. I know some of you guys, I've talked to you guys about this, and this is something that we're going to play at the end of the summer, but this is my friend's company. They're doing huge coaching throughout the world right now, and it's called Fresh Biz Game. and they made a game to really teach like the power of, you know, connection and the power of working together, and not just we work together, Matthew, so it's a win-win, but when we work together and we work our connections that we have, it's win to the win. Like it's on another level, and it's really cool to see it play out as you're doing this like entrepreneurship game and seeing like I have this and you have that, and it's like, oh my God, if we put this together, like all of a sudden like how it multiplies. And it really happens like that in life, that when people really look for, that's why there's so much shared space now, shared workspace, shared living space. Like my buddy in Colorado, their building like has all these different types of people, like from, you know, engineers and accountants and this, that they all work like in one office like this, but it's all different like companies, different people, and they'll rent out a space, but they all have access to each other. And so they'll walk over to get help on something, and it's all different companies, but just how they thrive through utilizing, you know, that connection and that power. It's pretty cool. And most, you know, the most successful people in society are the ones who can really establish, build, and maintain a large number of significant and intimate relationships, you know. And it's like, but how do you connect on a significant level? You know, most people, like it's, you don't meet, you know, it's very hard to like meet someone and just like kind of, you know, get deep with them. And so many times it's very surfacey relation, you know, conversations. And definitely in Cutco, as I've coached people, as I've seen people, you know, go through, one of the things, and it's not just with Cutco just makes you work on it. And so I think it's awesome because you get to use this for the rest of your life. But it's like, oh, Ms. Jones, yeah, thank you for helping me, you know, and they'll be like, oh, I'm working towards this, and they'll share something that they're excited about, you know, but it's very surfacey. And then when you listen to the top guys and, you know, Hal Elrod, you know, going through, talking about, you know, how to connect and how he shared his goals. And he's like, Ms. Jones, like, I am so scared, you know, and like going through and just everything that he would share, it was just a different level of intimacy. And that's why he was able to connect in a level with his customers. And, you know, Andy, you know, same thing, like he shares so much with his customers that you might not do. But, you know, these things bring you at a much deeper level. So people, you know, some people are naturally like people, you know, like you're a people person or whatever, but it doesn't mean that you necessarily connect on a deep level with people. That takes different things. So these are the 7 levels. So number 1 is cliches, all right? And cliches would be the, hey, how are you? You know, oh, I'm good. You know, like that's you know, speaking in cliches, like, how are you? What have you been up to lately? You know, like that's just a normal way that people will chat, right? So that's the most surface, you know, most surface conversation. The second is facts. So, you know, there could be non-personal facts. Like if I said, oh, what was the score of the game? You know, oh, what's the, you know, weather forecast? Or personal could be like, oh, what did you do today? You know, what have you learned recently? What have you been reading lately? You know, what's your favorite color, food, song, you know, whatever. And you're, you know, talking about that or asking those types of questions. You know, so I think about with, you know, with Cutco, when you're, you know, when it's facts, you know, you just might be sharing like what you're doing, right? What you're studying, like all those things, like when you're sharing like, oh, Ms. Jones, I'm going to school at, you know, University of Texas, I'm studying finance, you know, you're going through that. Those are facts. Those are personal facts. So that would be like level 2, right? Then you go to level 3. Level 3 are opinions, all right? So level 3, now it's like, hey, what are your, you know, you ask whatever, what are your beliefs about this? What do you think about this? What are your preferences about this? And so now you're showing like opinions on something. All right. So for me, even with my Cutco demo, the opinions would be like what I loved about, like what I thought about the program and everything. I'm like, oh, I think it's so cool. I'm sharing an opinion. Someone else might not share the same opinion. When I said, I think it's so neat that the company really does a lot of things to motivate us to work hard, reward us for our hard work, you know, that they allow young people to be able to move up based on work ethic. Like, I just think it's really cool because, you know, in other jobs, like I wasn't able to do that. And that goes more into feelings, which is even deeper, but just sharing your opinions on something. So not just here are my facts, but sharing, you know, what you think about something. All right. So that's a deeper level in itself. Number 4 is hopes and dreams. Okay. So this is a deeper level. You don't like meet someone and I'm just like, oh, hey, what's up? So what are your like hopes and dreams, Bradford? And you're like, like you meet someone at a bar and you're like, so what are your hopes and dreams? Like you don't start there. That's kind of weird and awkward. It's like, oh, how are you? And you just kind of dive in there. But, when you get into hopes and dreams, and that's something that by having your, goal pages, by having all those things like set up, you're able to get into with a customer where that's not a normal thing that people do. So right there, you're getting a deeper level of connection with your customer when you're talking about that, and so whether it's like, where you want to live, where you want to go in the world, like what you want to do. And that's what we talked about, like the dreams list. And even in your guys' manual, and this is something we coach in Cutco. This is what Justin did, to wrap up the SE1 kickoff. Those who didn't get to see that, by the way, it's recorded and you can watch it. But he went through, and in actually your Cutco trading manual, there's a part on the back. And the last page actually says dreams, lists, and goals, all right? And it goes through for you to think about, what are, and it says, how will you choose, use Vector to achieve your goals and dreams? But it has short term, so physical, material, intellectual and creative, financial, adventure, psychological and emotional, spiritual, character, legacy, and professional. And it goes through these, and Cutco and your career, but these different categories here that you guys can go through and really thinking about. And so that's something that I learned in Cutco, like share that, and I remember I've coached reps before and they're like, yeah, but the customer, like, I feel like I'm boring them. Like, they don't really care about that. And I'm like, actually, it's a really cool level, because then you can ask them like, oh, what are like goals that you had for yourself, that you were able to accomplish? Like, what are, goals that you have for yourself? Like being able to tie, and they're like, oh, well, this, or, what's your dream vacation? Like that's something that is a overdue. I'm like, oh, what's your dream vacation? Like what's the coolest place that you've been to? What's your dream vacay? I love talking about travel, but it's just whatever it is that you're talking about with them, with hopes and dreams. And these are different types of questions, like what goals do you have for your life? What area of study would you like to become an expert in? If you could be famous for something, what would you be famous for? How, like if you, what would you like written on your tombstone or, your obituary? Like, what do you want people to say about you, right? Those are the legacy goals. Like, what do you want to be known for? Who would you like to help? How would you like to help them if you could? What's something that would make you truly happy? Who are the people you'd like to learn from in your life? What personal qualities do you hope to develop in the future? What skills do you hope to develop in your lifetime? What do you dream about being the best in the world at? What are 5 things and this is stuff that you guys can put on your sheet. It's like, what are 5 things you dream about having? What are 5 things you dream about doing? What are 5 things you dream about being? Who are groups or people that you want to help? Like, what are things that you want to do? And, it's like, what would you do? A great question. What would you do if you knew you couldn't fail at all? Like, when's the last time someone asked Miss Jones that? It's like, Miss Jones, if you could do anything and like failure just wasn't an option, it didn't matter. You had like 5 kids, you're like, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? Like, what would be your dream this or your dream? And they're like, oh my gosh, I would have been a writer, or I would have, and they like kind of light up and start talking. I'm like, that's so cool. I'm like, you can write, and it's a different level. And that's why, by the way, years later, 14 years later, Andy has people that are all come back to him all the time. They connected with him in a way that they haven't connected with other people because they would just ask questions and had conversations that aren't normal conversations people have. And here's the crazy part. People are married and some never get to hear. And some talked about this a little bit when they first started dating, like, oh, I want to do this, or I want to do that, but like that got lost. And it's like, when's the last time someone asked their spouse, like, what are your goals for this year? What dreams do you have? What are things, and those that do, they have much healthier relationships. But so many people feel so disconnected, from the people that they're with or the people they've been with for a long time because they stop talking about these things, and what I've watched, some of the best relationships, like every year, this is something that they visit and revisit, and talk about. Because every year you should look at it like there's new things. And when you're categorizing your goals and dreams, you have your long-term, you have your things you want to do in 5 years and 3 years and your annual goals, and even last night I got a chance to think about those things because when we were at Tony Robbins' Date with Destiny, it was like rewriting our destiny. What do you want to do? Everything, like, who are you? What does it look like? Like, moving forward. It was just so neat to think about those things. And it was like, wow, like all that we have accomplished since then. And that's why I was reaching out to one of my friends. She's like, life has never been the same. I was like, man, it's so insane, you know, like those 6 days and like what we went through. And that was like right after my sister passed away. I split up with my husband. It was a crazy time in 2013 in my life. And in 2014, I was like, you know what? It's about me this year. You know, I've always been giving. I'm always pouring into everybody else. And I poured into other people for so long. At that point, 12 years, you know, that I'd been pouring into people. And it's like I had taken care of myself. I'd done a lot of personal growth and development all through 2006, 2007, 2008. And there was a time and I realized, I'm like, man, I really stopped feeding myself, you know, like I'd still read books, I do stuff, but I didn't invest in myself in the same way. And I remember that fall of 2013, just I went on like a little mini sabbatical, and it was just, I sat down, and by the way, I did a new dreams list, and I hadn't done my dreams list since 2006. And I sat down, and Matthew Kelly goes through an exercise where he's like, write down, do not stop until you have 100 dreams. Like you just keep writing. Adventure goals, personal goals, and I just started writing. And I made a list for myself. And as I went through, like it was like life was being, you know, breathed into me again, you know, and I remember sitting there, like I drove through Florida and I went up to the coast to my little sister's house, and I was there on the beach for like a week. And I just, you know, I reread The Dream Manager from Matthew Kelly, which is just a phenomenal book. And I just sat down and I was like, you know, what does my life look like right now? I'm like, you know, there's been so much crap. There's been so much tragedy, so many things that, you know, my family's gone through. And how do we change this? What is it, you know, like, what does it look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? What does it look like when I'm gone? Like, what is the life that my family, everyone, you know, after me has? You know, what's the new trajectory that, you know, people that I've set people on? And that's always been a big part of my life, is my legacy, you know, and what I leave behind. That's a very important thing to me. And I just sat down and wrote all these things. And I remember coming back just like so excited for 2014. And I said, I'm just investing into myself. I went to UPW again that March, which is what I'm going to take a group to this November, which is Unleash the Power Within. And it was just so good to get refreshed. You know, it was like my gas tank was on like the low empty, and it was just getting refilled. And I said, you know what, I'm going to do Tony's entire university. You know, and I invested over $10,000 to the university, different programs. And that was something that was the best school ever, like life school. And if you're an entrepreneur, you know, or want to be a business owner, like there's just so many unbelievable things. And you meet some of the most incredible, like millionaires, billionaires, top actors, you know, actors that are there. Like when I went to UPW, Sonny, there was, who was there? Pitbull was there, you know, big like a big famous like fighter from Yeah. He was there, and there was, oh my gosh, what's his name? It's like, I can't really forget his name right now. I don't know. Anyway, R&B artist. That was there. Usher. There it is. He was there, and they were there as attendees. Like they were there just like taking notes as attendees. Because it doesn't matter where you are in your life, it's about getting to the next level. You know, it's about breaking through. And that's what, by the way, these next 2.5 weeks and my alliances and everything are about. You know, it's about really going through that mental and being able to focus on, you know, what's good and bringing out the best and achieving at the highest levels. And it's a lot of the coaching that I've received and paid tens of thousands of dollars for, you know, passing that stuff on to you guys with just like lessons, mental lessons. And it's super crazy powerful. But in 2014, it was like, everything starts now, like again, like no more, you know, bullshit like this year. And just 2013 was the biggest funk of my, you know, life. And it was just, I mean, it just threw me for a complete loop. And the biggest time before that was when my cousin passed away unexpectedly in 2006, 2 weeks before him and I were walking my dad's wedding. He had a brain aneurysm, like out of nowhere. Like I was on my way back from the Bahamas, and I was like, what the? And this is my best friend. Like we were like twins. We're 2 months apart, and we grew up together. And that shook my world. And it was like, shit, at any moment we can be gone. You know, at any moment, anything can happen. You know, what are we doing to maximize the days we have been given? What are we doing to make the most for ourselves and for those around us? You know, and I really do, we'll feel we have a responsibility to do that. And that leads me to level 5, which is feelings, you know, and people really sharing like their feelings. And whether it's, you know, and I have a list of questions here. When in your life have you felt special to others? When in your life have you, what made you feel safe, loved, accepted? You know, who in your life made you feel the most rejected, devalued, abandoned? We're going to talk about this, by the way, during the Alliance meetings. You guys might not love it, but it's really when you're able to tap in there and not ignore those things and really understand why you are the way you are, what shaped and molded you, and where you're at now, it's a really, really powerful thing, and so what do you feel about your relationship with your parents, your most significant relationship, your coworkers, your reputation in the community, your relationship to God, like there's just different things, how secure do you feel in your life right now? How significant do you feel in your ability to contribute to other people, do you feel you're becoming the person that you want to be? Do you feel like you belong? Some people, they don't feel that way. Do you feel competent that you can build something that's meaningful, that's worthwhile? What are the biggest hurts that you've experienced in your past? Like, these are all like deep, questions that, by the way, for sure, there's relationships that never even got there. And I'll tell you from experience that's what people are married. People are together for years. I knew my ex-husband for 13 years. I mean, now I got 16 years, and we like that, but there's certain things that I never talked about. There's certain things that I realized 2 years ago, I always like just kind of hid, and not intentionally. It was just growing up, my brain was like, you just don't talk about certain things, and growing up, like the mentality that was put or from my mom, it was like you hide your dirty laundry, or like, just certain things they're taboo, to talk about, and like it just doesn't need to be spoken of. And it was just so crazy, being in a space, going to different seminars where it was like, you're talking about this shit. It was like, good diving. I was like, oh my God, but there's things that I realized, I'm like, shit, you know what? One of the things that never allowed me to connect, and this is more personal, but romantically, like I've been able to connect incredible with all different types of people, all different backgrounds, all different ages. And one of the things I realized that is when it came to a relationship, when I was dating, there's certain shit I just didn't talk about. I didn't talk about with them. Like I only talked about the good stuff, but I never talked about other things. And because of that, I never felt fully connected to somebody. So I was proposed to 4 times. I was engaged twice. I was married once. And we were like, I love you. And in my head, I'm like, you don't even know me. And that's something I realized. I'm like, shit, I keep this certain distance. And because of that, like in my head, I never felt fully connected. They thought they were totally connected, and my ex-husband's like, he's like, you had this wall. He's like, I felt like you were so far away. And I didn't know how to get through. And I was like, I know. I was like that. And I said it from since I was younger, and I had to realize like there were certain things that held me back. And so in that aspect, like I saw so much hurt. I saw so much pain. I saw so much like cheating in relationships, like growing up, like with my family, and I saw things happen that I was like, dude, I just don't want to go through that, and I didn't want to feel that pain that I saw my uncle go through and my dad go through and my aunt go through, like I didn't want to experience that. And so I naturally, there was just like, my subconscious built certain barriers, and I never wanted to get that close where I ever had to be that vulnerable where I was able to experience that pain. So it's like, if I wasn't that vulnerable, I was good, and so I was always like protected. And so I never really experienced hurt in relationships except for my first love when I was like 15. And I just didn't allow that to happen. But it didn't ever allow me to connect with somebody the way that I know that I was like, you know what, I'm meant to connect in a certain way. And now, for the first time in the past year, it was like, all right, I'm open to that process whenever that time comes, where I just wasn't before. I'm like, that's not happening. But it's just, there's certain things that we have, and that leads to the 6th thing. And that goes to what I was just talking about: fears, failures, and weaknesses, and so what are the things that, you feel you failed in? Like those things, I didn't talk about stuff like that, like only the stuff that was okay to talk about. But, there was just certain things, that decisions that I made that really in my brain were like not okay. There's things I did talk about, like I got expelled from high school. I got kicked out twice, actually, like I almost lost everything. Thank God my dean of my, Christian high school went to my church and was able to line stuff up and told the public school that I needed more honors courses because I was valedictorian at my school. And they said, oh, we don't offer enough AP courses. She can get more from here, and transferred me over. And it never showed on my transcripts, even though I was expelled, from Florida Christian School. All right. And I like to party. It's stupid, whatever. That's been part of my life since I was like 14. It's been 20 years. But anyway, there's certain, when it comes to fears, failures, weaknesses, and even as you're like, how does this tie in when you're in your demos? And I remember watching some of the best people when I was new in 2002 and 2003 in Cutco, watching them connect and sharing, feelings of like, Miss Jones, like, I'm so excited for this because and this can do this and this can do that. And like sharing like their excitement, whatever, but then sharing fears and like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm so scared. And here's the scary part. And by the way, almost every single human you speak to can relate to. And I remember hearing him talk and say, I'm so scared about giving 110% and feeling like I'm not enough or I couldn't do enough, and it's that fear of failure, right? And that's such a big, big part of human nature, is that fear of failure. And sharing that, Miss Jones goes, oh, I get it, because almost every human can relate to that in some capacity, of the fear of failure or the fear of just like not being enough. It's like, how about if I did give everything I had, but I couldn't do it, and feeling like I didn't do it. So instead, as humans, we stop ourselves from going on, because then in our head, we're like, well, I didn't really try. Who's ever thought about that or experienced that? Like, that's like a normal thing. And people are like, oh, and you never know what you're capable of because you don't take the step to really go all out, because then you never have to be like, shit, I wasn't capable, or I wasn't enough, or I was, or I didn't accomplish. And understanding that, and we're going to go through this journey over these next couple of weeks, that is part of the effing process of growing and strengthening yourself, that failure is part of the process. And those who were there on Tuesday, I was talking about that at the meeting, and Denzel Washington, we watched that, commencement speech where he's talking about, failing forward. And it's like, you take a effing step, you go, you take steps. And if you fall on your face, you're supposed to fall on your face. Get up, get stronger, and keep moving forward. And that's something the most successful people understand, is like, you can't fail because you never tried, that's never going to get you anywhere. And that's how most humans operate. It's about moving forward and really seeing what you're capable of. And so we're going to dive into a lot deeper of this stuff, like different lessons, different components of this through these next couple weeks. But you think about, with fears and failures, like, what makes you feel like you don't measure up? What makes you feel like you're unlovable? What do you think make others, reject you? What are some of the lies you've been told in the past? What do you feel you hide from others out of fear they might reject you? What makes you feel ignored? What makes you feel rejected? What makes you feel humiliated, incompetent, like a failure, inadequate? What's your biggest fear in life? Again, these are not things that human beings naturally always talk about. And even for myself, that hurt my relationship, romantically, where whether it's your family relationships, it's your romantic relationships, it's your relationships, with coworkers. I'm very open, and people that I work with know, like, dude, I'm scared to shit about this, and this is why, and this is why. But that's why we push ourselves, Going after $400,000 in an office scares the shit out of me. I'm like, oh my gosh. Last night Mary Lou was like, what? So I was like, I think that we're gonna do like $450,000, or we're gonna do like $250. And she was like, what did you just say? And I started laughing, and I was like, I'm just so scared right now. I said, we need 35 people. I said, we need 35 people. We do not have 35 people. I go now on a positive note. I've never had such a talented and capable group of people. I typically have 3 to 5 like studs. I feel like we have like 10, 12 like killer people in our alliance that could go, and I'm talking about ship 30K plus type performances. I typically, like, the most I've had in one group was like 5 1 year that I honestly felt could do $30,000 plus. And I'm like, shit, like, we have some really good people. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, but still, it's like, I feel like all the weight is on top of them, and I'm like, but I was like, we're going to do this thing, like, we're going to make some big things happen, but it's scary. And then number 7 is needs. All right. And what you personally need, like, what do you need spiritually? What do you need to thrive in your relationships? What do you need to, for your mind, to grow mentally, strength, just one of you, like, what are the things that you need in order to be safe, to feel secure, to feel significant, like those actual needs. Like, I need this. I need you to be like this, or I need to feel this, or, and people might not share those things, like, but what is it that you actually need to be able to perform at the highest levels, to be the best version of you? So Anyway, these are all, things that you can share. And I was talking to Barbara about this, 2 days ago, but even with your customers, with your family, like sharing with them, be like, Ms. Jones, like, I need to put myself through this process because I don't want to be, scared of taking a step forward. Like, I don't want to feel like this anxiety, when certain things are happening. Like, I need to push myself out of my comfort zone, because if I don't get past that, I'm never going to be able to be the spouse, the daughter, the, whatever mother that I want to be, because I'm always going to be held back by certain things, And so sharing with friends or family, like, I need this because of this. And people don't really talk about, like, why they need something and how it's going to benefit them. Like, just really, like, for you as a person. So again, that's a really deep level. It's not just like, oh, I want to do this. It's like, no, I need to, because I need to get past this, and I need to be stronger, and I need to. And so I'm really excited about going through this process, going through this journey. So again, to tie it back, and we're going to go through all these things, but if you really look at this and really study it and really understand, what's behind all this, how it benefits you, again, not just in Cutco, but in life, is just nuts. And that's what I love about, SE2 in this process, is that it pushes you out of your comfort zone. It pushes you, you deal with a lot of those feelings of whether it's rejection, not enough, this, that, just being scared to take that step, whatever it is, like, it's thrown in your face. Any insecurity that you might have, however small it might be, it's thrown in your face during this time if you're like going through it. And I will pull it out and throw it in your face, because you can't just ignore it, because you're not going to be able to achieve at the level that you want to. So in terms of, so I want to transition, and that's kind of like a, I don't know, sneak peek in terms of things that we're going to be doing. People have asked, they're like, so I don't understand, like, what are we going to be doing? You're going through the mind. I'm like, we're going to be making you a effing badass at life, period. at people, at relation. You think you're great at it, but you're not at the highest level. Like, you're not, and there's different levels of that. There's different levels. I love the book from John Maxwell, Levels of Leadership, and just really seeing where you're at, and how you connect, and how you lead people, how you manage people. There's going to be a lot of things that you guys learn, not just through this process, but a lot of stuff that I go through in GCLA, through the Leadership Academy, teaching these things. So to your goals, to Miss Jones, when you guys are going through, are you just like, yeah, there's a scholarship, there's a contest, I'm really excited about it, or are you really sharing, like, why, what it's going to do for you, how it benefits you, what you need, and really diving in with that, but starting off with, and tomorrow I'm going to go through with certain goals and thermometers, how to tie it back into really maximizing the amount of recommendations that you're getting, but even just tying customers into you, which benefits your recs, your sales, your everything. In the beginning, you're going through letting them know. So, hey, Ms. Jones, they have, like, there's this scholarship program that the company has, which is pretty freaking awesome. And they help pay for school, and just talking about, so this was a big thing that I shared with customers. And so people have it. So one thing that's missing here for Joe, which I've seen some people already do, and do you have your blue book with you, Stace? So Stace has, like, her daughter and everything's on there, and so sharing. I know I saw some of the new guys had put together, their page. Did you get to do your second page yet?
Oh, it's not.
So we're gonna. Oh, you have to print it out. So she has, like, her daughter and just things about her, and then places she wants to go to or visited, like, and she'll share, but then she's going to put here the printout of, like, future goals, places to visit, things she wants to do, and having that in there. But, do you have something that's, like, personal? If you guys saw when Andy was speaking, he went through, and you saw him showing pictures, and he has pictures of, like, his mom, his sister, his nephew, his dog, like, just things about him. But again, it makes you such a real person. And this is stuff that with people that they know you, right? So it's like you don't really necessarily need to do that. But as you see recommendations, they don't have that same personal connection to you. So by showing those things, sharing those things, they're connected with you on a deeper level. They know more about you. So being able to share who you are, what you're doing. And then I go through and I'm like, yeah, so they have the scholarship. I recommend it to everybody. And I'm telling you guys today, take a picture of yourself and tape it, cut it, and put it on the front here, or put it at number 1, depending how your book is set up. All your books, the beginning's all set up different. That doesn't need to be set up the same. Things that I like to talk about are the scholarship. That was always a big thing, and I shared with them, like, hey, here's my goal. You need to update this and put the initials of all the people you've seen this summer. Update your sales with your customers. but this is exactly my book. When I was a rep, had this, and I stole this from my first SC1 roundtables. But I loved that there was demos goals and there was sales goals, and this really helped me maximize the amount of recommendations that I got. When I was showing them, going through the demo goals, because at the end I'm like, that's what I was plugging in terms of like, hey, I want anyone who's nice who can help me with that. Then you have, I'm like, yeah, so right now we actually have our biggest competition. It's the Super Bowl of our company. The entire company's competing for 2.5 weeks, and it's a chance to really for us to challenge ourselves, push ourselves out of our comfort zone. Be like, I'm actually part, and those are in the alliance. Share this with customers. I'm actually part of the alliance, which is kind of the starting lineup, and we're actually meeting every single morning, Monday through Friday. Like we're up, and we have a meeting at 7 a.m. every day for an hour to kick off our days together. Going through like different mental coaching, personal coaching, just kicking off the day early, be like, I'm a college student. Like I'd like to be getting up like 1 p.m., but I made a commitment for 2.5 weeks. So I'm just like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to challenge myself, and see what I'm made of. And so it's kind of like a little boot camp for a couple weeks. But my goal is through this process. And so you don't have this stuff in there. I put yesterday in Cameron's book and Zyla's book. I'm trying to think who else. I put the management internships and the entrepreneurship internship I put in yours. So showing them, like having those, like after these goals or in here, having the entrepreneurship internship, the management internship papers. And so I share with them like, hey, by the way, company also has Leadership Academy. There's different internships available. My goal is to run my own business one day. And so having an opportunity to do that with a $250 million company that already has a proven track record and an unbelievable product, and being able to go out and do that. I'm really excited about that. So I want to stand out as one of the top performers so I can be accepted into that, program. So the numbers right now show with my stats that I'll end up somewhere in this range, according to the amount of appointments that I'm going for. But my goal is to be in this range, and the difference with that is going to be customers like you, Miss Jones, that decide, you know what, like I'm gonna, that decide to do extra shopping now versus later, because obviously everyone buys stuff for the holidays, like all the holiday gifts, and you might have weddings or birthdays, things coming up in the next 6 to 12 months. But the difference maker is going to be people who say, you know what, we're going to take advantage of Christmas in July. Like right now we have Christmas in July specials running, and they say, you know what, like I love what you're doing. I love what you're up to. I'd want to get some of this stuff later anyway, but they do it now versus later. Like that's going to make a huge difference for where my goals end up. So I'm asking you, I'm asking all my customers, like keep a lookout for anything that you might need for weddings, birthdays, things coming up. Because, like I'm going to make sure you get hooked up. And like I said on the phone, Ms. Jones, you don't have to get anything. Like this stuff's way too expensive for you to buy just to be nice. Like I'm assuming you didn't, you didn't put aside $7 to $10 grand to redo your kitchen today. But I do want to show you like why so many people invest in this stuff. My goal is to sell $30,000 a speak. So if you want to just write me a check for 30 grand, that would be awesome. Then I know I'll hit it. All right. Yeah. High five. Okay. No. All right. Fine. But seriously, keep a lookout. If there's anything you see that you might want to get later, I'm going to ask that if you can, and if it's possible, like if you can swing it today, I'm going to make sure you get hooked up in a big, big way. All right. And then I have a free way to help me. This has nothing to do with sales. This is my sponsorship, and I'll tell you about that later. But a lot of cool things I'm working for. So I just want to say, again, thank you so much for just taking time out for me. It makes such a big impact, And so that would be like the quick service. But within that, this is actually a 15-minute process, for most people. For some people, it's maybe a little bit longer. I used to spend 15 to 20 minutes just like talking with them, why I was doing this, what I was studying, what I wanted to do. And I was just like, yeah, Ms. Jones, so I have no idea long-term, like what I want to do. I said, I bounced around everywhere. I said, I know that I want to lead people. I know that I love working with youth. A lot of and just so you guys know, like 4 of my 5 best friends are youth ministers or youth pastors. I said, I always, volunteered in church. I always did that. I'm like, but I'm a little bit too liberal to work in a church. I said, but I love working with youth, and I love seeing people really maximize their gifts. And that's something that is, I don't know, something God put on my heart, and it's a big passion of mine, is seeing people really grow and really seeing people maximize like the gifts. One of my biggest fears, I know like when Denzel shared this, or was it in the other talk that we watched from, I think it was his, one of my biggest fears is, when my time is over, like being in front and God being like, I gave you X, Y, and Z gifts. Why the heck did you not use them? You know, like everything that I'm given, like I want to be able to use it at the highest level. And that's something since I was younger, I always felt like I had a responsibility, I guess, you know, and I was given certain talents, certain gifts to connect. I've always been a people person, I guess, since I was younger, and been able to be in front of crowds and not give a crap, you know. My parents have plenty of stories, you know, from growing up, but I was not the shy person. And that, by the way, is a gift. And some people might not look at it like that, but that's a gift. To be able to have the confidence and the comfort to be in front of people. Not everybody has that. So how could I use that to do something good? You know, and so those are things that I shared with my customer. I'm like, you know, I'm not sure what the heck I want to do, but I know that I want to lead people. I know that I want to inspire people. I know that I want to help people utilize their gifts, you know, and their talents they've been given. I go, so whether, I don't know, I've thought about going into the Peace Corps. I've thought about doing like ministry. I'm like, I'm cool with living in Africa and living in a shack. I'm like, I also would love to have a mansion, you know, like I'm down for whatever. I'm very open to the ride. I'm very open to where God takes me. I said, but what I'm excited about this is being able to hone certain skill sets, gain certain business skills that I don't have yet, hone some of the soft skills that I do have, and really be able to open doors, you know, through meeting people, through networking, but also lining myself up and really learning the foundation of what it is to run a business. You know, like I want to know how to do that. I want to own businesses eventually of some kind. And so this is cool because they have an entrepreneurship program where I, as a 19-year-old or 20-year-old, can actually run my own business, you know, and I can learn these skill sets, not just reading them in a book, Miss Jones, but I can actually go out like next summer and run my own office and do like a mini term where I like basically run a business for 8 to 12 weeks, depending on me. And I go out and I learn how to start up a company. I learn how to manage a team. I do payroll. I do all these things, which is really crazy, you know, for a 20-year-old to be doing, but I learned that. So my goal right now this summer is to really stand out. You know, I want to stand out as one of the top performers to be able to have a shot at doing that, you know. So by winning a scholarship, like obviously to be able to say I was top 50 out of 40,000 people, like that really excites me. And so my goal is to do 100 appointments this summer in order to get that done. So I just want to say again, thank you so much, you know, for helping me get one step closer. You don't know how much this means to me. Like I've been working my butt off, and like for these next 2.5 weeks, like I'm gonna be up every single morning, like absolutely exhausted. I hate mornings. And, you know, and by the way, you know, people are like, oh, you became a morning person. I still not become a morning person, okay? You guys just see me because I like get my zone on the car on the way here, but you still see me because I don't take I will sleep till the last minute possible where I come. People are like, I do my hair in the morning, put on makeup. I'm like, you've never seen me do that. You'll never see me do that unless I'm like being recorded in the morning. And even then, it'll be like 2 hours after I'm up there. I'm like, all right, I probably should brush my hair now, put on some makeup. But I'm not, you know, and I want to transform that, and I'm going to transform that in my brain. That's one of my goals actually for this next year, is to like really love mornings and love running. Those are two things I really want to get past, but I really do not enjoy either, or I have not enjoyed either till this point, but I'm going to love it. And I just really want to change that. But I would tell Miss Jones, mornings are not my thing. I'm like, I can stay up at night. I like late night. You know, I got a message from a manager last night, like, did you really text us at like 1:30 in the morning? And I was like, what? You know, and I wasn't like, I was just like excited about, you know, today and just, you know, this weekend and going into this week. But anyway, so I tell Miss Jones, I'm like, Miss Jones, like, I'm so pumped. I'm like, I'm so scared too. I'm like, I'm so, and being able to share that, I'm like, I'm so scared about going and giving 110% and not hitting my goal. Like that scares me, you know? But I know it's part of the process. I know it's part of the growth. And whether I hit my goal or not, it's about, you know, the journey throughout, you know, and me being able to keep moving and keep pushing forward, you know, even when I might not be on pace or I might not be on track. Be like, and it's not fun. I'm like, I don't know about you, if you've ever had something where it just like tore your stomach up thinking about like not being able to accomplish it, or maybe you just, you know, like we're scared to do something because maybe you wouldn't succeed with it, you know, and like that's definitely been something for me. I never like to, like if I'm going to do something, I know I'm going to be the best. I know that I'm going to dominate it, you know, and if there's something that I'm like, I don't know about that, like I usually won't go after it, you know, or I won't do it. But I'm really excited about pushing myself beyond my comfort zone. Be like, I don't know that I ever, you know, was like, I'm going to be a great knife salesperson, you know, but I am excited about growth. I'm excited about learning. So this is what's going down right now. That's what I was calling you about. We have our huge competition. So like the entire nation for these 2.5 weeks actually competing. And, and I talk about that. And I'm like, and so this is a process of just like pushing ourselves. Like we get up early, we meet every day, like my accountability partner, Peter, and I, and then we have buddies that we're competing with, Ellen Thistle and Ed Searing. These are my accountability partners my first summer. And I'm like, we're competing. Well, I said, we have all these competitions and I had pictures of them. I told Taylor St. Laurent yesterday to do that. Are there people, can you guys match each other? Like people that are going for similar goals that you can put a picture of you and them, and I'm like, Tay, put a picture of you, John Austin, and put a picture and say, I'm competing against, like my goal is to beat him. Set a competition. It's like, hey, loser pies the other one in the face at SE2 on stage. Like whatever it is. And so we set contests for like, you had to wear a dress on stage, you get pied on the face or whatever. And so I'm like, Ms. Jones, I cannot get pied by this person. Like that just can't happen. And so it tied them in more too. And they saw a face. It was more real. Does that make sense? So I told her, I said, hey, cut out pictures or print out pictures from online. You want to break a national record, get a picture of Tyler Park and say, this is the guy who holds the record, and show it to them, physically show it to them. People are visual and they get more connected, so I had in my book, Ellen and Ed, and then it was Peter and I, and I'm like, we're going like 2 versus 2. I'm like, and the team that loses has to buy the other one dinner, and then we get pied in the face and all this stuff. And I'm like, Ms. Jones, you have to help me hit this goal. I'm like, so anything you see that you might, and they get excited about that. And it's like silly things that just like tie them in. But I'm like, beyond standing out, being a top performer, I can't lose to Ellen and Ed. I'm like, we have to beat them, I'm like, you're on team Kathy Peter, not on team Ellen Ed. Got it? And they just like laugh. Like, I'm just sharing with you these little things that I did. But you know what? Peter and I both won scholarships that summer. And Ellen and Ed were top 60. They didn't make the top 50, but they were like number 53, I think one of them was. I was like, oh gosh. Ed was like right outside. And then Ellen was in the top 60. I don't remember if she was 58 or 59. But we kicked ass. There was 40,000 students, and we were in the top 60. But we had a lot of fun with it. We'd always tie our customers into like team, Peter Cat, which both won scholarships. We were number 19, number 43, and then team Ellen Ed. And we're like, we're going to beat them. Like Ms. Jones, like it's a competition like all summer. Like you don't even understand. We're so competitive. And we were like all athletes, like we just had a lot of fun with it. And our customers did too. So sharing, what you're excited about. I'm like, yeah, I can't lose this. I need this. And so sharing. And then it was always like, hey, so if you want to write me a check, making them laugh and connecting. But I said, no, in all seriousness, like I'm assuming you didn't put away $7 to $10 grand to redo your kitchen today. Like this is way too expensive for you to buy just to be nice. But I do want to show you why so many people invest in it. Like Juliana did, like Susie did, like Mariana, like all these guys, like they love it. So again, working super hard for all these things. So really appreciate your help, really excited about this. So let me tell you about the company. And if they own Cutco, I'm like, so how did you get your Cutco originally? I'm like, don't worry, I'm not gonna bore you with all the details. I'm like, but I am gonna remind you why the heck you made your investment. So that's what I would say to someone that has Cutco, by the way, and I'm like, and I'm not sure if you know this, because some Cutco reps, they might have bought it from somebody who just started and they didn't know about the cookware, the flatware, right? They didn't know about certain things. So I'm gonna tell Ms. Jones, and for some of you guys, like I flipped this around, like some of you guys put yourself in page protector. I just flipped it around. So the goals part was here and this was here. Because they just like are looking at it. But I'm like, Ms. Jones, I'm not sure if the person who showed it to you before told you, but we make flatware. It's amazing. We make cookware. It's low moisture cookware. We make gadgets all for the kitchen, for outdoors. Cutco makes K-Bar for the U.S. Marine Corps. Like the knives that protect our country, yeah, we make them. So like all these different things that we have. I'm like, so I'm going to show you everything, cool? And we're going to make a wish list of everything you wish if Cutco was free. We're going to make a list of like Matthew and Anna's dream kitchen, whatever. We're going to make a list. So right now everything's going to be free, but we're going to make a list to see, if you want to hook up your kitchen with, Cutco later, what it would look like. By the way, this is missing. I would put angel wings in here. I always like to talk about like giving back and all the giving back component. Zyla, is Zyla here? Zyla. Okay. Do you have, well, we did last night. I did like the Cutco Cares. We did some other stuff in her book last night, which is nice. But anyway, I share a lot with them about that. And like when I talk about, by the way, angel wings or any giving back, I always tell Ms. Jones, I go, Ms. Jones, by the way, I'll tell you about this later. We have a program called the Trade-In Special. I talk about it when I talk about giving back. And I go, we have a program called a Trade-In Special. You know how you can trade in a car at a dealership? and you got credit for your vehicle. Well, in order for us to sell more of the bigger sets and the kitchens, we do a trade-in special where customers can trade in some of their old kitchen stuff or even good kitchen stuff, and it all goes to charity. And for doing that or donating to Angel Wings, you're able to actually get discounts from sets. You're able to get free stuff, that you can hook up your kitchen with or stuff for gifts. So we'll talk about that later, but just so you know, that's something that we do have available. And they're like, oh, wow. And by the way, by the time you get into later, they totally forget about it, but then you bring it back up and like, oh yeah, you told me. And I'm like, hey, Miss Smith, do you remember about the trade-in? Like when I need that to close, which I'll talk about tomorrow, dropping down and really integrating the trade-in when you're closing specials and deals. We'll do that tomorrow. And one of the workshops that I told you guys we're gonna do like closing deals, that's a big part of it. But when I'm sharing my goals and I talk about, hey, my goal is to give blank amount back. My goal is to donate, $1,000, whatever it is that you're going for. And you share that with Miss Jones. And I'm like, hey, so I'll tell you about this later, but we do have trade-in specials where you can trade in some of your, so I want them thinking, oh, what can I get rid of? That's another thing of planting to have bigger sales. What can I get rid of? Can I give away to charity and get new stuff? Don't people like to have new stuff? I'll tell you, in my closet, I love giving away clothes because then I have to go buy new stuff. Like, that's my rule. I'm like, as long as I give away stuff, I'm allowed to buy new stuff. I can't buy new stuff unless I get rid of stuff. That's my rule. I have too much crap. But even though I wear like gym clothes like 24/7, but like I have like a lot of stuff. Like if I don't give stuff away, I'm not allowed to buy new stuff. So if I want to go shopping, I have to like clean out my closet and like donate at least whatever, 3 to 5 pairs of shoes, donate any clothes I haven't used in the past 6 months, and then I can go shopping, So whatever it is, but people love getting the new thing, right? People like trading in the old car and getting the new one, right? People they enjoy that. So when you bring that up, like, hey, Miss Jones, I don't know if there's anything you can do without or anything that you'd be excited to donate and give to charity, but those who do, you can totally hook up and do, brand new kitchen stuff and stuff that you actually never have to worry about again, which is pretty sweet. Then you go into the company and you talk about the company. So we talk about the company. And I'll show you guys tomorrow. We have, the junk knives. You go through guarantee. And then I did this with some of you guys where we put this in here already. So we go from the guarantee to here. So if you haven't, those on Alliance, and you have to be pass all your skills checks to do this. But I'll go through tomorrow with closing the actual sales. Because once I get here, once I show the book, right, and I show them all the stuff, we have all the different gift sets and, things, wedding gifts, stuff for apartments, boats, campers, whatever, and I get their list, what I'm doing, and for those who watch the Cutco Kitchen Close, and I want you guys to make sure you're practicing it later. Joe integrated it yesterday, which is great. He was like, yeah. And I just want you guys to get comfortable, talking about it. And just, it's very matter of fact. It doesn't mean you're closing a kitchen every time, guys. The average sales made on the 4th or 5th attempt. Why is national average order $300? Because nationally, reps start with the homemaker. And then they go to the galley, and then they go to starters, and they go to pieces. And so something, so on the 4th or 5th attempt, they're trying to get a sale. Why do top guys sell more? Top guys will show the complete set. Here's your signature. They'll incorporate the trade-in. Here's our, Cutco, our kitchen system. Here's the homemaker. Our top people are getting to the homemaker on the 4th or 5th attempt. How do you increase your average order to be $1,200 to $1,400? How do you close? And the way to have an average order that's $1,200 is you have to be closing more $2,000 to $3,000 orders. How do you close more $2,000 to $3,000 orders? Well, when you're closing on, or showing something that's hey, this is $6,000, and then they're like, oh no, now when you show $2,500, $3,200, it's a lot smaller. It's half the price of what we just talked about, So naturally your brain's like, oh yeah, that's much better. That's much easier, When I went from a deposit that I showed Miss Jones and I said, hey, we were talking about 65, whatever, and the deposit was whatever it is, 14, let's just call it 1450, right? And we were looking at that, but all of a sudden we do a package deal for her on the stuff she liked, and it comes out to 2468, and her deposit is $522. So I'm looking at $1,000 less. That's a lot more comfortable. Does that make sense? So you're going to close a lot more of these orders by showing this. So when I finish closing, and so whether you go back to where there's this picture, if you don't have the Cutco Kitchen, which the new guys, I'm not giving it to you, just so you know. So you'll just go back to here. This is perfect. Go to this page, all right, which is in the front or wherever it is. My alarm just said all day, call day, all day, call day. It's time. So when I go to close, I go, okay, so Miss Jones, let's talk about prices. So those of you who you guys can just use this, all right, for your closing and when you're doing your comparisons. And hey, if you're gonna do these 3 components of the kitchen, you can do it all right there, all right? Those who have this, I would go here, all right? And so I'd say, all right, Matthew, let's talk prices. Have you had a chance to look at prices lately? Yeah, it's like anything. There's such a wide variety of quality and prices. I'm sure you get, and we go into closing, and I'm showing them, I'm like, hey, so this right here, I have price comparison for sets similar. And so I have this ripped out and I'm talking about this. And then I go, so hey, Matthew, if you went to Williams-Sonoma and you went to redo like these 3 parts of the kitchen, like the 3 major parts of the kitchen, here's the top stuff that you got, all right? And by the way, you guys can make your own cart, all right? All the people are like, can I have your comparison? I'm like, it's called go to williamssonoma.com, pick out the shit you want and add it to your shopping cart, and then just print it out, all right? That's it, that's what I did. So I'm like, and I think it's really powerful too, because they know that you did your homework. And you're like, if you went right now to Town and Country and you went to Williams-Sonoma, if you went right now to Galleria Mall and you went to Williams-Sonoma and you wanted to replace these 3 parts of the kitchen and get like the best stuff, like here's what it would cost, all right? So you're talking over $11,000 it would be to replace these parts of the kitchen. By the way, you can get them on sale, as you can see here. So right now, if you went to Williams-Sonoma today, you could get it for $87.39. And then you go through and you're like, there are some, be like, obviously it's not cheap, it's the best stuff. So it'd be like, if you redid your countertops or if you did whatever, obviously you're gonna spend, a lot of money on that. There's some differences between us and them, and you go through the differences, and you're like, so most people who own Cutco will tell you it's like 10 times better than any knife they ever used. I know you haven't had a chance to really use it that much yet, but considering the unique features, the guarantee, we dive into that, I'm like, it's twice as good. And so when you guys have, for those who are incorporating this today, you have right now on your paper, and if you haven't seen, you can look at it, it's 5 minutes, like the writing down, and we thank you, Stacy, for helping me with that. You can see what the paper looks like. You should have your wish list, right, that you went through, and then the comparisons right under. And so when I go to ask for the order, if someone's totally into it, you could just say, so did you want to do that? Did you want to pay in full, or did you want to put the deposit if you see them totally into it? You can close on the kitchen. But the close that I gave, those who have the kitchen close, it's really more of just like mindset framing and just throwing it out there. And it's like, hey, now that you've seen the prices, would you want to put a deposit and just try it all out? Or do you want to see deals on the stuff that you liked? And just throwing it out there. But we're talking bigger numbers. We're expanding their mind. That's going to help you close at a higher level. All right. And then now here's where, like, if you tie them into your goals properly, and when they're wishy-washy, like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, Miss Jones, I'm like, if you can swing the 14-15, if you can swing it, I'm like, you're not going to get a better deal. Like you're getting 20% off and you're getting $1,000 in additional like free products. I go, you're not going to get a better deal. I'm like, and you have 3 weeks to try it. Make sure you love it. Anything that you're not happy with, we can send back and you get 100% of your money back. I'm like, if you're not comfortable with that deposit, don't do it. I'm like, we can do something smaller. We can always upgrade you in the future. But if you're comfortable, like if you can swing the 14-15, on a credit card or whatever, I would recommend just trying everything out and see how you like it. I said, but it's totally up to you. Don't be afraid to say that. Don't be afraid to tell the customer. Like anytime they're like, even before when I was closing on a complete set and they're looking at a complete set and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, Miss Jones, can I be real? I'm like, most of my customers that love Cutco like end up upgrading to complete sets. Like they end up upgrading. So eventually you're going to get that. I know you're going to get that set eventually if you even are looking at it. So if you're comfortable, if you feel you can squeeze the deposit into the budget, this month, I'd say go for it and try it out for a couple weeks and just see how you like it. Worst case, we send it back. You get a free Cutco for 3 weeks. I'm like, worst case. That's not going to happen. Like I said, you're going to love it. Like you can call and pay the whole thing off, or you can do our easy pay and it's interest free. But it's totally up to you. I'm like, I want to make sure you're comfortable with it. I'm like, but if you're considering it and you feel you can swing the deposit, do it. I'm like, you'll be glad you did. I'm like, everybody loves it. I'm like, and if not, then we can do something smaller and we can always upgrade you in the future. I'm like, I just want to make sure we get what's best for you today. And I told that to my customers. So it was like very real. And so tomorrow when we go through like closing prices and whatever, some of you guys are like, oh, they take so long deciding. I'm like, then decide for them. Like you're like, Miss Jones, like if you like it, get it. All right. But you got to time into you. They need to feel comfortable with you. They need to feel connected to you, because when you do that, you can say whatever you want. When Miss Jones tells me, I don't really know anyone, I'm like, Miss Jones, seriously? I'm like, we're not going to play that game. I'm like, you're too nice not to have friends. Like, we're not even going to go there. I'm like, so I don't care who's going to buy, who's super nice like you. Like, who doesn't hate college kids? Like, who's nice from work? Who's nice from here? I'm like, no, you know more people. I'm like, grab your cell phone. Like, I do that to my customers. Like, they gave me whatever, and I give it right back. I'm like, no. I'm like, grab your phone out. I'm like, who's nice from neighbors? Who's nice from here? You know, and like, and I had people that went field training, and they were like, how long have you known them? I'm like, I just met them when you did. All right, but I know I connected. I know they freaking love me. I know they want me to marry into their family. All right. So like, I'm gonna take advantage of that. Like, we built a great connection. Like, Miss Jones is gonna hook me up and help me with whatever I need. I'd help her out too, you know? So do you build that relationship in a way where they feel super comfortable, you feel super comfortable, and you can suggest things and you can be real with them. I'm like, if you're not comfortable, don't get it. I'm like, I don't want, and I was very real with my customers. I'm like, but if you feel you can, I'm like, get it. I'm like, do it, get it, you won't regret it. I'm like, it's totally up to you. I'm like, if not, I'll show you some smaller stuff. I'm like, but you let me know. I'm like, no, you know what, let's do it. And I'm like, I promise. I'm like, again, you have 3 weeks. I'm like, but you will love the stuff. And they're like, all right, you know what, let's do it. So, be the person, build the connection, and you build the comfort where you feel comfortable telling Miss Jones, like, Miss Jones, just get it. Like, and that's what you heard Andy. She's like, just do it. You want more. No, yeah, you want more. Like, Andy will do that, but he knows that they love him. So they don't feel pressure. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Like, they're laughing and they're like, no. He's like, yes. Like, he's built such good relationships. He can say whatever he wants. All right. So those are my thoughts for today. I've got great stuff for you guys for tomorrow with closing deals, with tying customers into goal, with maximizing your recs. I'm really, really good at this. I'll teach you guys stuff as much as I can. But, as we go into today, what's important right now, what's important today, we got to make calls. Cool? We've got to make your calls. Some of you guys yesterday, great job getting your minimum 50. Some of you guys got your 100. Some people got their 100 calls made. And I got updates from that yesterday. I did not get updates from everybody on Alliance though. And if you're on Alliance, I need an update every night, like starting now, of what happened that day, what got done, and where we're at. We cannot forget that if you're trying to go for a $20,000 plus push performance, it will not happen if you don't build the right call momentum. So by tomorrow night, you need to have 20 appointments ahead of you. And all of your Monday through Thursday should be completely booked. So some of you, your goals are higher than 20. So then you should have more than 20 books. You should have 25, but from all the way through Thursday should be completely booked up by tomorrow night. So we have today, this morning, I set aside, and I told you guys from 9 to 1, and then you can make calls again later today. But we need to sit down and just crush through your list. All right, so crush through your whole list once. Great. Do 10 push-ups, grab an office phone, crush through your list again. And then jump on there 30 times, grab something to eat, and then call your freaking list again. You can use my phone. Like whatever it is, make your calls. Make sure you get to 100 calls and just keep going. You finish up, switch phones with someone, go through again, grab an office phone, switch it. And if you don't have, most of you do have over 100 or 150 or 200. But for those who don't, you're making 100 calls this morning. So get focused. So there's a bunch of pancakes in the back. I'm going to make some smoothies. I don't know.